Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the final part of how to build self-discipline. Sorry this video took a long time because I was really caught up with my full-time job. I hope that this is going to be very useful for you because I myself found that the tips that I'm going to share at the end of the video is really something that not just helped me a lot in terms of really having self-discipline all the time, but it has helped a lot of my friends as well. So please stay tuned until the end of the video. So if you have not watched part 1 and part 2, I highly suggest that you do so and then come back to this video, because then this part 3 will make a lot more sense to you. So in part 1, I actually shared about how to prime yourself and your environment. So how to use self-awareness to set yourself up for better self-discipline. And then in part 2, I actually spoke about how do you actually set effective goals that are going to help you to, find it easier to have self-discipline to achieve your goals. So part 2 is all about how to set effective goals. I will link the videos down in the description box below. So please watch those videos before you watch this one. Okay, so part 3 is all about willpower. This is a word that either turns you on, some of us, or is going to frighten the hell out of you, because a lot of times people will say, oh man, how do you have this willpower to do this? It seems like willpower is such a supernatural or superpower that a lot of people don't have nowadays. So I think that's something that I really wanted to share about willpower that is going to kind of change your perspective a little bit. So before I do that, obviously I did my research. I read up some articles. I didn't want to just speak from my personal experience, because I know that willpower is not something that you're born with. It is something that every one of us, can train ourselves to have more of. So there is actually a social experiment done in the 1960s by this psychologist, where he actually called it the marshmallow experiment. So what he did was he tested a group of like 4-year-olds, right? He offered them marshmallow to see which are the kids that actually went straight for it, and then a group of kids that actually waited 15 minutes before they go straight into for the marshmallow. So then this psychologist actually tracked these kids, right, over the years to see how they excel in life. And he quickly noticed that those that actually waited 15 minutes before going for the marshmallow actually had greater academic success, right? Better scores, they are more intelligent, they stick to the plan, and then they have better health as well, because they have a routine, that is healthy. And then they have lower rates of marital separation and divorce because they stick to the plan. So I think willpower is something that all of us can train ourselves to have. It is just a matter of whether your why is strong enough. So for me, willpower is really a superpower, because nowadays people are just falling to temptations. People are allowing their emotions to control them, and therefore it becomes very difficult for people to achieve greater and greater goals in life, because they can't even do the small things. So having willpower is really, I think it's a fundamental skill that every human should have. Not even talking about consistency, because without having willpower, without self-discipline, how are you going to have that consistency? So willpower is really something that I personally think that has helped me to achieve a lot of the things that I thought I couldn't do. So I thought that before I go into the 3 quick tips, is that I want to change your perspective about willpower a little bit, right? I read an article about what willpower really is. So there was this saying, And this made a lot of sense to me, and I didn't realize that it's something that I have been practicing all this while, is that people with a lot of willpower, right, when they want to achieve something, when they have a goal, they don't say things like, I have to do it, you know. So instead of them saying that I have to do it, they have this mentality of I want to do it. So I want you to think about this. Let's say you have an exercise goal, right? And then you feel like, oh, this is not me, you know, I don't have the mood. So instead of saying that you have to exercise, you kind of need to change your mind into saying that I want to exercise, you know, I want to be fit. So it's more of an identity, of a willingness, rather than you're forcing yourself because you use the sentence, I have to. When you say I have to, you are kind of putting yourself in a situation where there's a lot of pressure of doing something that you actually don't want to do, right? So instead of saying I have to, you reframe it to I want to. So it's kind of like a belief of faking until you make it, because it's not something that you actually like and that you want to do, but you kind of trick yourself into thinking that you actually want to do it. Over time, you would have an association, and then you're going to use a lot less willpower because it becomes part of you. I hope that makes sense. So to give you an example is that people always, you know, comment, they ask me on Instagram, Michelle, how do you wake up 5 a.m., you know, to go to the gym, and you do it almost every day, and you never, you know, not go to the gym, like how do you stick to your plan? So I think for me, right, I have never ever had the mindset of I have to go to the gym, I have to lift weights, I have to be strong. I've always thought about like, I want to wake up to go to the gym and I want to be strong. So that has really helped me a lot. So every time I have some form of resistance in my head that is against the goal, the things that I want to achieve, I would try to meditate and kind of like tell myself that this is what I want. I think that's how you slowly pacify or coach yourself into doing things that you are supposed to do that is actually good for you. So let's talk about the 3 key takeaways, some of these practical tips that you can immediately start to practice to have better willpower or have to improve your self-discipline. So tip number 1 is, instead of setting very challenging goals, you know, I think I spoke about this in maybe part 2, it's take your big goals and break it into smaller, easier, less challenging goals. So really break it down into things that, or action that when you look at it, it's not going to make you sweat or make you feel like it's going to put a lot of effort for you to do it. I think at the beginning, especially when you're someone that is super chillax and then you don't really have a lot of willpower, right? It's even more important that you set smaller goals and make your goals less challenging. The easier it is for you to execute it, the more you're going to build the momentum, the more then you're going to be adapted to more and more challenging goals. So let me give you an example. It's very common when you hear people say things like, man, my friend is like hitting 10,000 steps every day. I also want to do that because I want to have her fit body. Okay, let's say that's your goal, okay? So the thing is, one of the mistakes is that that particular person don't even know how many steps that they are hitting per day. They immediately associate, oh, because my friend hit 10,000 steps and she looks like that, I'm going to do that. So that is you being not realistic, don't know what's happening at that moment, and then trying to set a very idealistic goal that eventually is going to cause you to have a lot of willpower to get there, which is going to be more and more difficult. So so now let's say your goal is the 10,000, right? And then if you don't even know how many steps you're hitting now, perhaps it's a good time to track, not even set a goal yet, to track how many steps do you hit per day or on a weekly basis. And then from that number, right, you incrementalize. Is there such a word? You slowly use that number to plan it in such a way that, you know, you kind of build a mountain, like a slow pace towards higher and higher number. So instead of just straight away, I want to hit 10,000 steps, maybe you can do it for the first 2 days or first week because your motivation is so high. But we all know that motivation is something that doesn't last. So you need something that is actually going to help you to slowly adapt to it, so that over time your self-discipline becomes more part of you rather than it's a sudden burst. Okay, so that is tip number one. Is, again, like I said, tip number one is all about taking bigger goals, breaking it down into smaller actions so that it is, when you look at it, it is very achievable and you can quickly tick it off your to-do list. So there's this psychological effect behind it. When you set to-do like action plans, right, when it's very achievable and then you're able to tick it off at the end of the day, right, it actually gives you this sense of dopamine effect where you actually get things done towards your goals. It's kind of like a reward system in your brain where you release dopamine knowing that you check it off your list is something that is helping you get closer and closer to your goal, right? So that is going to help you to build more self-discipline as you plan to conquer the bigger and more challenging goals, right? Okay, now let's move on to tip number 2, right? So tip number 2 is my personal favorite, but I also know that it is one of the most difficult. But that is then even more that if you master it, I'm going to tell you that willpower is going to disappear from you. You don't even need willpower to achieve your goal. So number 2 for me is all about biohacking. So what do I mean by that is 2 things, right? Your sleep routine and your nutrition basic. So getting your sleep cycle right, having enough sleep, is really one of the most fundamental things that you should have if you want to have willpower. The reason because when you don't have enough sleep, you cause your body to have more cortisol, you release more stress hormone because your body is trying to find energy elsewhere, right? It's not going to allow you to focus on sticking to your goals. It's not going to allow you to concentrate and resist temptation because it's trying to look for energy. So when you have sleep deprivation, your sleep cycle is off, your hormonal balance is going to be affected, and that is how it's going to affect your mood, causing you to have this, oh, today is not the day, I don't feel like it, maybe tomorrow. So that is the situation that you want to avoid. So sleep is one thing. If you cannot tackle your sleep, maybe really you need to tackle your nutrition then. For me, sleep and nutrition goes hand in hand, but if you feel like both of it is very difficult, maybe you need to only tackle one and see what happens. So the second is nutritional basic, meaning to say, a lot of times, right, that when I talk about nutrition is that you need to go on a carnivore diet or keto. That's not what I meant. Okay, it has nothing to do with being carnivore or keto here. It is proven in science that when you are about to eat a meal, and if your meal does not consist enough of bioavailable protein, what I mean by bioavailable protein means protein coming from animal, okay? So your meat, your seafood. So if you don't eat enough protein during your first meal or just your meal as a whole, your body is going to try and search for protein because protein is not something that your body can generate on its own. Your brain can produce ketones, which is fats. Your brain can produce glucose, which is carbs. It can still fuel you in some sense, but your body don't know how to produce its own protein, which is why you do need to consume protein. Protein is one of the most important macronutrient that every human should have. So if you neglect protein during your first meal especially, you send a lot of signals to your body that it's going to try to look for protein somewhere else, and it's going to cause you to have cravings. It's going to make you, after you eat a giant meal of, let's say, like processed food, which is carbs or a lot of fats, or it's combined, and you don't eat enough protein, your body is going to, the hormone wise, is going to be out of whack. That's number one. Your blood sugar level is not going to be great. Your body is going to start craving. Your body is going to maybe like an hour or 2 hours later crash and tell you that it's hungry again. So you're going to get all this distraction from up and down blood sugar, right? And eventually, with this kind of mood swing, you're not going to be able to have willpower to stick to your plans, to kind of like make the right decisions, you know. So I think protein is something that it's so, people don't really talk about it. People talk about, you know, eating a lot of carbs as energy. Yes, that is important, but people neglect protein, and they don't realize that protein is that essential element that is going to help you feel satiated. It's going to give you mental clarity. It's going to help you to maintain your muscle, which is important for your brain health as well. And this all links to having better mood, better state of mind, so that you can have willpower. Okay, before I go on a rant, especially when it comes to nutrition, that is always my passion, I'm going to go on to the last tip. So the last tip is actually distracting yourself. So if you're somebody that has very low willpower, you tend to fall into temptation easily, perhaps this is a very quick and easy tip. The moment you realize that, oh no, I'm about to ruin my plan, you know, perhaps it's time for you to put on very calming music, right? Go for a walk and really ask yourself, why are you feeling this way, and why do you want to mess yourself up? I think distracting yourself a little bit, they say around like 15-20 minutes, your mind starts to reset itself again, and then the temptation is not going to be as strong as it is. You just need some time to cool off, because I think a lot of times we are overwhelmed, we are burnt out, we are, you know, affected by a lot of emotion, which is why you want the comfort, you want the quick fix, you want the happy hormone, you know. So you want to reach out for that thing that is going to give you that instant gratification. So even more than, you need to distract yourself. The moment you feel like you're going to give in, you know, just go for a walk. Just go for a 10 minutes walk, put on good music, make you feel good again, and that perhaps is going to distract you a little bit. Meditation is also something that really helps. It's not something that I've tried when I am about to, when I have low willpower. Actually, that doesn't really happen to me, so I'm lying. Okay, anyways, so meditation is something that I heard from my friends. It's actually something that helps them to reset themselves. If you kind of like use self-affirmation, this is not who I am, I'm going to stick to my plan, you will start to realize that it kind of pacifies yourself into thinking that you are better than the temptation that you're going to fall into. I think at the end of the day, nobody is going to help you to achieve your goals. It is your own mind, it is what you think. So calming yourself down and meditating, just zoning out for a little bit, give yourself that time. You will quickly realize that, hey, you know what, maybe falling into the temptation is really not worth it. You'll come to realization that it is not as what you wanted it to be. So perhaps that's something that you can try. So anyways, guys, these are my 3 quick tips. I hope that you find it useful. If you have practiced any of this, do put it in the comment section below. I think it's going to help people out. But if you have tips that are different from mine, I'll be happy to know about it. If you wanna talk to me a little bit further about it, you can always find me on Instagram. I will try my very best to keep a lookout on your DMs if there is. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.